Hi there, I'm Matt Cerino from Team Stomping Grounds. With me today are my teammates, Matt DeFranza and Jesse Newton. Today we're going to talk to you about the 2013 Battle for Salvation Grand Tournament. So BFS takes place in White Plains, New York. It was a Nova-style event. 2,000 points, painting was required. So I know personally from my experience as a TO, I think the event was incredibly smooth. We had a 15-minute delay on Saturday, which is to be expected in any event. We played 3 rounds each day. We got out on time each day. So I, as a whole, was really impressed with how smooth the event went. Jesse, your feelings on it?
I love the smoothness of the event. Everything ran really smooth. I love the venue. The venue was phenomenal. Being in Palisades Mall, it was very large of a mall, but they had a Dave & Buster's, Buffalo Wild Wings, literally anything you wanted, you can just go out in the mall and get in between rounds. Whether it was a beer with some buddies, you don't see often, or lunch. That was great. Not having to travel to get dinner, lunch and dinner, allowed for the event to keep right on time and not have to wait for people to travel back.
Matt, your feelings?
Yeah, I was happy with some of the stuff that they provided us. They gave us a really fancy 45-degree angle template, which for Nova is really relevant how the way that they ruled it. I also like that they gave us a brick of dice in order to stop any dice shenanigans that might have happened in the past. One downside, though, I noticed was that there was no scatter die in it, and nobody brought their own because we were told that we weren't going to need it beforehand. And the other thing was that it seemed like everybody had red dice. So as a humble suggestion to the BFS guys, maybe vary up the dice a little bit, and we'll be all set for next year.
Another thing with the smoothness is a huge credit goes out to the Battle for Salvation Club. Also, Torn of Fire is what they used for their round pairings, and that kept things really moving in one after another. So we said it was a Nova-style event. So they went with a couple changes. The first one being they went from 1850, which was what Nova did this year, to 2,000 points. So that changed, made things a little bit different. Also, they changed how the Warlord charts work. So Nova in the past had been pick a column or pick a chart and then roll a die. For this one, actually you choose any 3 columns that were available to you and then roll and then pick which result you want off those 3 columns. So any feeling on how that went with the game, Matt?
I really like the 3-column thing. It helps a lot. Sometimes in Nova, you'll get one, and then somebody will have a really solid Warlord trait, and somebody will have a really bad one, and it'll unbalance the game a little bit. So for the sake of fairness, I like the 3 columns. It helps give everybody an equal shot to get something useful.
Yeah, I like it on paper. Unfortunately, I didn't get to use it because I had my own Warlord trait provided to me. But the biggest thing was the 2,000 points. I like playing at 2,000 points. It lets me just bring a few more tricks, and I'm a fan of having all the tricks in my list so that I can try to deal with anybody.
And we did mention there was a third change, and that is they went from 2.5-hour rounds to 3-hour rounds. Now that's kind of a new trend we're starting to see tournaments go with, especially at Nova. They ran into some issues with time, with games ending early. So feelings on how the 3-hour rounds went?
I love the 3-hour rounds. I didn't have a single one of my games go to time. Every one of my games ended naturally, whether it was on turn 5 or turn 7, like when I played James. That was a great feeling, not being rushed for time. I didn't play really slow because I never do, but the fact that my opponents didn't have to feel rushed really led to some interesting games, some good gameplay.
I'm still questionable about it. I think it was nice to have your games finish on time, and when you have a tournament that only has 3 games a day, it's a nice thing to have that extra space. You don't have to worry so much. But I can understand and sympathize with the Nova crew and the logistics that it requires. When they have 4 or more games in a day, having an extra half hour per round adds 2 hours or more to gameplay each day. So I can see why that would really strain the player, an already strained player.
I do also, the Battle for Salvation guys said that just over 90% of their games finished naturally, which I know as a player, it's great to get that feeling that we didn't have some random game end. It was actually great to be able to play out to the way the game wanted to play out. Now, obviously, Space Marines were legal for this event, so I know I expected to see a lot. Jesse, you have the top 5 most played armies. You can give this to us?
Yeah, so the most played armies in this following order were Eldar, Tau, Chaos Demons. Really no surprise in the top 3, same as at Nova. And then 4 and 5 were kind of surprising. So 4 was Grey Knights, and 5 was Chaos Space Marines. So we did a little bit more digging using the Ultimate Weapon tool to find out some winning percentages and everything. And Eldar, being the number one army, actually won 74% of their games. That's pretty big as a primary. Tau fell in right behind them at 65%, and Chaos Demons at 60%. But what was kind of disappointing overall was actually Space Marines. Space Marines as a main only had 11 games played, and out of those 11 games, only won 4 of them. That was kind of a little disappointing for the Space Marines as a whole.
I mean, I know it surprised me. I expected to see a lot of Space Marines. I was also surprised to see Grey Knights as the 4th most played army. Any feelings on why, particularly?
Oh, go ahead.
I personally think Grey Knights are pretty good against the current meta. And I've been toying around with some Grey Knight lists myself. But for the Space Marines, I think some of the complications might have just been the painting. Because you have to have 3 paints required. If you want to get a shot at best overall, you have to have a nicely painted army. And White Scars were not the most popular back in the day. It was all Vulcan Marines. So now people might be painting up bikes in a white color scheme to get some grab bikes.
Yeah, I expected the Space Marines, even with the lower numbers, to actually do better because of how well they match up with like Tau, who, as we saw, was the 2nd most popular army. They match up really well with the grab weapons and things like that. But it just wasn't meant to be for them, unfortunately.
So we know what the most played armies were. What actually made it into our top 8?
Sure. Out of the 8 armies that made it in the top 8, there were 3 that were main Eldar, 2 that were main Tau, 2 that were main Chaos Space Marines, and 1 that was main Demon. One unique thing was that all the Eldar armies that came into the top all had different allies. So the one had Dark Eldar, one had Space Wolves, and another one allied with Tau.
Well, so everyone expects Eldar Tau, right? That's kind of the accepted thing. You were the Eldar Dark Eldar player, and there was an Eldar Space Marine player, or Space Wolf player. So why the difference in allies?
I think the differences were more geared towards the person that was playing it. Eldar Tau tends to be the dominant understanding on the internet, and so there was a gentleman named Cameron who played from Toget, and he brought that expected. Mike Brandt, who I got the honor of playing in the championship game, he was the one who brought Eldar Space Wolves, and he has a concern for psychic powers in regards to Tyranids and demons and Eldar in particular. And so he brought Space Wolf allies along to get a runic weapon, and he hid it in a Land Raider to spread the bubble around. So that for his personal reasons, might have been why he took that. And for my own sake, I took the Baron in order to buff my Seer Council. So it was kind of more of a one-man ally with a 5-warrior tax on him.
No, you did say there was a Chaos Space Marine army that was allied with Chaos Space Marine, so Black Legion. Kind of surprising to see that. I mean, obviously, when Black Legion came out, immediately everyone was in uproar. Oh, 4 Helldrakes, what are we going to do now? This list didn't run 4 Helldrakes.
Yeah, James Watkins was the guy who was playing it from down in the Virginia area, and Jesse and I both had a chance to play with him.
So he actually ran it for multiple spawn units, and then he took the biggest, most badass characters he could and stuck them in there. And it really gave people fits because of it. You had to deal with the Juggernaut Lord, you had to deal with a Nurgle Space Marine Lord on bike with the Black Mace, then you had to deal with Abaddon. That's a lot of killing power to deal with.
I was also surprised to see not a lot. There was only 2 Tau armies and 1 Tau ally, but I mean, everyone assumes Tau is kind of like that accepted ally. So I was kind of surprised to see Tau not all over the top bracket, which was kind of nice.
It was surprising too, but one of those Tau armies was actually allied with Space Marines, and it was basically running a little Centurion star. Had a unit of Centurions with a buff commander. He was playing next to me in one of the games I noticed. I didn't get a chance to play him, but it seemed interesting.
So, obviously we talked about that Matt got to play in the final table against Mike Brandt, and they played Eldar against Eldar. I guess, can we claim that Dark Eldar were the superior ally since you won? And maybe?
Yeah, I think it's probably more particular to the list, but it was a good close game.
So another really cool thing about Battle for Salvation is they have this history with their awards where they give out a very unique award to the winner. This being their 4th year running it. Matt won that award. If you want to tell us about it. Sure. And show us this award.
Sure. Each year, a gentleman named Bishop from their club gives out what they call the Slayer Sword, and I am one of 4 now owners.
Don't cut me, bro.
So this is a really cool idea. It really does add some character, and I was happy to get it, and a little upset that I didn't get it last year. So I'm glad to have finally gotten my own sword.
Well, maybe we'll have to have a sword fight. I know they were joking around about all the past winners, bringing them together.
Yeah, they should all be here for Philadelphia.
So that's our introduction and wrap up to the Battle for Salvation Grand Tournament. Each one of us are going to be doing a separate video talking a little bit more about the list we played and variations and how we like the event. But from Team Stomping Grounds, thank you guys.
Thanks. Take it easy.
Have a good night, guys.